Welcome to Cheating Stories Star. Today's story follows Connor, a grieving husband who notices something deeply unsettling about his wife on the day of his mother's funeral. One phone call, one familiar name, and a secret he was never supposed to discover will change everything he thought he knew about his marriage. Stay with me. Here's the story. My name is Connor, and the strangest thing I ever heard my wife say was not a confession. It was a laugh. I was standing outside the funeral home when I heard it through her half-open car window, a soft laugh. Careless, almost happy. My mother's funeral was starting in 40 minutes. My wife, Elise, was supposed to be beside me. Instead, she was sitting in her car, staring at her phone. Then she said something that made my entire body go still. "I know, I'll be there tonight." I stepped closer. She ended the call immediately. Then she looked at me. For 3 seconds, neither of us spoke. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. That was the first lie I told her. "No problem," I said. She smiled with relief. I walked away, but something inside me had already changed, because the number she had called wasn't unfamiliar. I had seen it before. A name had appeared on her phone several times over the past month. Derek, her ex. The man she once promised me was completely out of her life. I had never questioned her. Not seriously. Until that moment. That afternoon, while people came to say goodbye to my mother, Elise kept checking her phone. She didn't cry. She barely looked at the coffin. And when the funeral ended, she touched my shoulder and whispered, "I have to go home. I'm exhausted." I watched her leave. I watched the woman I married drive away from my mother's funeral. And somehow I already knew where she was going. Derek's party. The first thing I felt wasn't anger. It was embarrassment. I kept thinking about all the times I had defended her. When my brother asked why she was always texting someone late at night. When she started guarding her phone. When she suddenly needed space. I had called it stress. I had called it nothing. Now I understood. That night I didn't call her. I didn't ask where she was. I opened my laptop. And I started looking. Not because I wanted revenge. Because I needed to know whether my marriage had been real. I checked our shared bank account. There were 2 restaurant charges from the previous month, both near Derek's neighborhood. Then I checked an old cloud backup I had forgotten existed. There were photographs. Dozens of them. Elise and Derek at bars, Elise in his apartment. Elise wearing my mother's necklace while sitting beside him. Then I found a screenshot of a message. "Connor suspects nothing. I just need a little more time." I stared at those words for almost a minute. My hands were completely still. My mind wasn't. I wanted to smash something. Instead, I opened another folder. There were messages between them. Months of them. The relationship hadn't started recently. It had started almost a year earlier. While Elise was telling me she loved me. While I was planning our future. While my mother was getting sick. She had been living 2 lives. And then I found the detail that hurt more than the affair. Derek's party wasn't just a party. It was a celebration. A celebration for Derek's engagement. To another woman. Elise had been invited because she was still secretly seeing him. And she had chosen his engagement party over my mother's funeral. That was when everything became clear. I wasn't competing with Derek. I was married to someone who had never completely left him. The next morning, I made 1 phone call. A lawyer. Then another. I moved every personal asset that belonged solely to me. I changed the locks. I removed her access to my accounts. And I packed her belongings into 3 boxes. I didn't touch anything sentimental. I wasn't trying to destroy her. I was simply removing her from my life. When Elise came home, she walked through the door smiling. Then she saw the boxes. Her smile disappeared. "What is this?" I placed a folder on the table. "Open it." She did. The first page was a bank statement. The second was a photograph. The third was a printed message. Her hands started shaking. "Connor," I raised my hand. "Don't." She looked at me. "How long have you known?" "Long enough." Her eyes filled with tears. "I can explain." "I know." That confused her. I looked directly at her. "I know exactly what happened." She began crying. She said she was lonely. She said Derek meant nothing. She said the funeral had overwhelmed her. She said she regretted everything. I listened, not because I believed her, because I wanted to hear what a person sounds like when every excuse has stopped working. Then I asked one question. "Did you love him?" She looked down. That silence answered me. I nodded. That's all I needed. She grabbed my arm. Please don't end our marriage over this. I gently pulled away. You ended it before I knew. She stared at me. And for the first time, she understood. There would be no screaming. No revenge affair. No broken furniture. No dramatic scene. I was simply leaving. That was the punishment she hadn't prepared for. She expected anger. She expected a fight. She expected me to beg for the version of our marriage that existed only in my head. Instead, I handed her the final envelope. Inside were divorce papers. And a note. 3 words. You chose him. She read it twice. Then she sat on the floor. I walked past her. At the doorway, I stopped. For 1 second, I thought about my mother. She had once told me something I didn't understand. Connor, never stay where you have to convince someone to value you. I finally understood. I didn't erase Elise because I hated her. I erased her because remembering her had started to feel like betraying myself. Months later, the divorce was final. I never learned whether Derek stayed with her. I never asked. Some questions don't deserve answers. My mother was gone. My marriage was gone. But strangely, I wasn't. I was still standing. Still breathing. Still capable of starting again. The last thing Elise ever said to me was, I thought you'd forgive me. I looked at her through the closing car window. I did, I said. She looked relieved. Then I added, I just didn't forget. The window closed. The car moved forward. And for the first time in years, I didn't look back. Because forgiveness had freed me. But forgetting would have invited her back. And I had finally learned the difference.